The man I knew 10 years ago.
It's not the years, it's the mileage.
Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. The latest and allegedly last installment of my second favorite film franchise of all time, starring possibly my favorite cinematic character of all time, is, well, kind of a dog shit sandwich. The highs are not as high as Crystal Skull, but the lows are pretty damn low. Indiana Jones and the Dialysis of Density, Indiana Jones and the Denial of Destiny, Indiana Jones and the Defile of Antiquity is a bone marrow dick punch, straight to the core of all that I detest about modern tentpole cinema. A tired and bloated, road-weary sequel to a film franchise that bolstered a career, created a new sense of nostalgia for a generation, and is a cultural icon in the lexicon of American filmmaking, lands with all of the celebratory falderall of a wet fart and a cool southern breeze on a miscellaneous Thursday in June. It doesn't so much fail as it sabotages another of Disney's golden gooses. Geese? I mean, how many last hurrahs can you have in a cinematic franchise? One. The answer is one, and this ain't it. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is to the Indiana Jones legacy what the theme song to Friends is to opera. It's arguably competent, but not compelling, lacking any kind of soul or engagement. It's very much the fifth film in a series, and it wears too thin too quickly, despite several convoluted storylines haphazardly stumbling along throughout the 2.5-hour runtime.
What the hell am I looking at?
There seems today to be a significant lack of skillful writing and talented scene construction in Hollywood. It really feels like every major production, every tentpole film, gets filtered through a committee of witless interns, thirsty for accreditation and lacking self-awareness, who have no knowledge of or passion for the timeless art of storytelling.
Get a little tired of this!
They are simply familiar with the character traits, money-making story beats, and cinematic tropes, and they pump those out like coins from a penny slot in Reno. The premise is this. It's 1945, and while attempting to reclaim from the, you guessed it, Nazis, led by supreme leader Nazi scientist Voller, played by Mads Mikkelsen, the spear that pierced the body of Christ, Indy and sidekick Basil stumble upon another artifact, one half of the Antikythera machine, an ancient mechanical device created by Archimedes, designed to be able to control time. This 20-minute section of the film contains all of the things that we know and love about Indiana Jones. He's young, he's tough, he's smart. It's a spectacular action set piece that celebrates the Indy legacy, but that's where the fun begins and ends. A topic of much debate is the de-aging of Harrison Ford. Is it noticeable? Yes. But for me it's worth a short trip to the Uncanny Valley in exchange for getting to see young Indy laying waste to the horde of indecipherable Gestapo in his prime once more. We then jump to 1969, on the very day that the Apollo moon landing crew are being celebrated via parade in New York City. Indy is now a lonely aging professor working in the city, drinking himself to sleep, and wallowing in the aftermath of a bitter divorce and the loss of his son. On his last day before retirement, he's visited by Basil's daughter, who is seeking out the whereabouts of the Antikythera device. On her tail are the CIA working with Voller, who are also keen to get their hands on the legendary antiquity. The mise-en-scène in the film is fairly atrocious. James Mangold seems to have somehow regressed in skillful scene construction. He's no Spielberg. Much of the action is muddled at best and an incoherent CGI tornado at worst. Spectacle soup is the order of the day, and my ability to comprehend where the pieces were at any given moment, or whether they were even on the chessboard, was constantly strained to and past the breaking point. Character motivations are diabolically extraneous, and some of the characters make no sense whatsoever. Why are these three Americans working with a Russian scientist to procure what is either a harmless artifact or a time travel device which, when used, will lead to their inevitable doom? The rest of the story plays out in a series of low-grade, exposition-heavy fetch quests, where we get to witness a car crash cash grab of nearly non-existent restraint, A notable exception is Antonio Banderas as Ronaldo, a diving boat captain. He's a bright glimmer of fun in the surrounding gloom, but he's dispatched as quickly as he's introduced. Don't even get me started on the third act. It makes Crystal Skull look like Citizen Kane by comparison. Harrison Ford is, as usual, brilliant, inhabiting the role as no other actor could. He owns Indy. He is Indy. If not for Ford, the franchise would have been a one-off film starring Magnum P.I.'s mustache. He absolutely wraps his teeth around every venomous snarl and gives a somber breath of weariness to the introspective moments. Phoebe Waller-Bridge creates a character which embodies all of the most obnoxious traits we've come to expect from a legendary character's protege. Not unbearably annoying, but self-absorbed and yet somehow painfully dull. Mads Mikkelsen turns in a perfectly antagonistic performance and is a formidable foe to Indy, although lacking any discernible character development, apart from growing steadily more cartoonish. The several member-berry cameos in the film seem forced, and while I love all of those actors, I didn't need to see them. A minute exposition could have explained them away just fine, but here...
Man, this some old bullshit.
There's a thing in cinematic storytelling called suspension of disbelief, often described as the avoidance of critical thinking and logic in understanding something that is unreal or impossible in reality, such as something in a work of speculative fiction, in order to believe it for the sake of enjoying its narrative. Basically, our ability as humans to know what we're watching can't exist in our reality, but that it's not impossible if given certain slightly improbable circumstances. Do superheroes exist? No. Is it possible that something like the Hulk could someday be created through genetic engineering? I think so. Could a man go through all that Indiana Jones goes through in Raiders of the Lost Ark? It's unlikely, but not impossible. Could an 80-year-old man go through what Indy is subjected to in the Dial of Destiny and survive? No. It is complete and total horseshit ridiculosity to expect your audience to suspend their disbelief to the degree that this does. Couple that with coincidence, contrivance, and plot armor, and you've got my eyes rolling so far into the back of my head that I can tell you what I ate for breakfast last Tuesday. All of this is not to say that the film isn't without some semblance of fun. It's a wild ride. If you can push past the silliness of the various plot points, the questionable visual effects, and the on-the-nose dialogue, there are a lot of enticing settings and exciting action set pieces. The cold open train sequence is truly a dazzling spectacle. But in the end, it's the writing that truly fails this film. Silly, senseless, expositionally heavy, and oftentimes contradictory to itself and the characters. Not even the excellent opening scene can save the project from feeling like an overlong shoulder shrug. The franchise dies, not with a bang, but with a Wilhelm scream, arms flailing as it falls into the abyss.